Hello, this is Danny Ryan, and welcome to the Three Will Podcast. This is our weekly discussion, Tommy and I together. Thanks for joining me, Tommy.
Good to be here again, Danny.
Awesome. Yeah, good to spend a little bit of time with you, just sort of talking about what's going on here at Three Will. I know for this week, I've been focusing in on. We've had the same homepage for a while now. I love our video, but I want to sort of spruce up the content and do a little bit more about what are we doing for customers and some recognizable things. And it sort of got me thinking a little bit about what I've been seeing going on recently, which is we're doing a heck of a lot of really complex migration. So that seems to be the first step into getting people moved over to the cloud. Everybody wants to talk about the cloud, but unless you've got your stuff migrated over, you're just talking about it. So are you seeing? You're seeing a lot of these migrations sort of take off. What's your thoughts on what's going on there?
Yeah, I think I'm very surprised in the number of organizations and the size of organizations that are starting to trust the cloud and getting their standard collaboration in place there, their Exchange, their SharePoint up in the cloud. I'd love to see folks building solutions up in the cloud, but we think the first step is you really have to get there first. And when you get there, you want to make sure you're bringing over valuable content. You're thinking about, is this the way I want my information structured? Mm-hmm. And the customers are, I think, looking for getting out of the business of keeping their infrastructure up to date to continue to patch and keep SharePoint and Exchange healthy in their organizations. They're commodity services and love to see those things in the cloud.
Yeah, it's there with Exchange where it really is. It's just like a commodity. It does what it does, and you configure it. Don't really customize Exchange. SharePoint's been one of those things where it's gotten over into the platform and has gotten some. We're trying to look at it like it's a commodity service. It does what it does, and it does some of those things, I think, for small teams and for basic collaboration. But through the years, a lot of people were taking it and really building on it and customizing on it and doing some things where that are high business value on SharePoint. And so that sort of led us to this world where you're looking at using SharePoint for some commodity service, maybe for team collaboration. Then a lot of people are doing a hybrid or still doing some stuff on-prem and sort of combining that with sort of what the standard out of the box SharePoint cloud stuff does.
Right. Yeah, and that, how that's going to play out exactly is, I think, still to be seen.
Yeah.
But I think the organizations that want control over their portal being a unique portal into content that's in SharePoint, those folks are opting to be on-prem. Mm-hmm. And Microsoft's still giving that option. They're not saying everybody has to go to the cloud. And so I think some organizations do it from the data we put into SharePoint. We don't want in the cloud yet, and we're not comfortable with that yet. We don't think it's the wise thing to do. Mm-hmm. And then there's people that fall in that category of, I want still SharePoint to be that platform for me to create my own intranet portal or information portal or extranet portal experience. Mm-hmm. And when I go to the cloud, it's great if I want to use it out of the box. And then I just have some workflow. But when I really want to change the user experience, that's where the challenge comes. I think you have to think about it differently when you go to the cloud.
Yeah, and we're starting to see, I think some of the other SIs are putting out sort of these intranets in a box to sort of customize the UI and make it sort of look like it's more of a well-branded type of intranet experience. It's interesting to see how those are sort of coming along now. We've got some customers that we're migrating into that are using some of those solutions. And those would be, I think, it's probably for the smaller, maybe to mid-sized clients, but then for the larger clients, they still want to be able to really control control the data, control the experience. It seems like.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes to branding. That they want the branding experience and then the actual services used in SharePoint, I think, are more commodity. It's heading in the direction of more commodity based. And so when you have something custom, I think you have to think about, well, where does that reside, and what's important about what I did custom before, and can I do that in the cloud? How do I do that in the cloud? And so the new add-in model, I think, helps with that. So it allows you to surface custom pieces, but those are almost in itself their own apps, and then you're just integrated with that app. And that app might be using SharePoint as a service, to be able to store documents, to be able to kick off workflows.
This is interesting for us because our background has been more around app dev. I mean, we sort of started the company out with doing sort of the COM C I say C#, the ASP.NET and ASP type of web development, and sort of have gone through the different stages of waiting for SharePoint to get to a point where it's a platform, to now it's the message is, you've got, I know for us, we're looking at Office 365, and then I think for customizing it, we're looking at Azure for some of the stuff that Azure does. It was so much easier for me on the website to just say SharePoint, and nowadays I'm going like, well, do I emphasize Office 365 or Azure, or what is it? How do I package up and say what we do so that somebody would understand? I'm sort of saying I don't know.
Definitely transforming, and I think some of the things that we're going to see 3 to 5 years down the road, we're going to be surprised. I think we're really changing what it means to have collaborative solutions and what a solution looks like. You see the influence of the app stores and people buying very specific, point type solutions that are not very broad in scope, but kind of micro apps. And I think you're going to start seeing that more in the cloud, where you have micro apps, and then you have a lot of integration between your solutions. I mean, just yesterday I installed the add-in for Outlook for Wunderlist.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm a Wunderlist junkie, and I see I'm picking SaaS services as my main area to do a certain type of thing. Let's say task management, or emails, or document storage, and those things are not in one big fat system, one big monolithic solution. They're really down to the smallest unit of work where you do that type of work. It's something that you look at Outlook, and you've got tasks in Outlook. You've got, tasks maybe in your project.
Yeah.
You have tasks that are in Autotask, in this system that's a professional services automation tool. You got these tasks sitting everywhere. I have tasks in Salesforce. I want to have that one place to go, and I want that to follow me everywhere. And so these apps like a Wunderlist that can be on my phone, can be on basically any device, and where I'm doing my work, I can communicate to that application. And so I'm in the context of the email. Well, should I flag it? Should I create a task? Well, my work, in terms of my trusted system that I know everything that I need to get done, is sitting in Wunderlist. So to be able to take the context of, I need to do something about this, and just quickly click and push it into the right bucket, I think is where we're going to see apps where people are going to have very narrow slices of, I'm going to do this well, and I'm going to bring it to you anywhere you're at. I don't care about operating system. I don't care about device. If you do that well, your people are going to go to you and stick to you and be loyal to you. So you look at Office, and what's wonderful about what Microsoft is doing about Office is they have one of the best iOS apps for their products, for Outlook, for Word, for Excel. Very rich, and they're embracing. I just saw an update for a 3D Touch, feature within Word. Those things, to be able to play across platforms, but have a domain that you do very well, word processing, make it ubiquitous. Anywhere you want to do word processing, you can get to Microsoft Word.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think this is where we sort of starting out with migrations. It's through the years. Migration work has not been the thing that has got us very, real excited about doing, because it seems like, SharePoint had a release pattern of every 3 years or so, whatever, and you did these upgrades, and it was moaning and wailing, and what did you customize? Does that work? Did you use third-party apps or third-party tools out there? Does that migrate over? It was just really a pain, not the funnest types of projects, especially when you're trying to add value. You're just trying to, build these line of business applications. Well, now we're moving people into the cloud, and it seems like it's a one-time thing. It's like you've got to. It seems like to me we're trying to get to the point where we're integrating and we're customizing and building apps. This is sort of like, we got to do this. We got to get people moved over. And hopefully we're not, this whole migration, we'll be doing it probably for a couple of years now, because there's laggards in the industry. But once we've got them over, then we can really start having some fun with this, it seems like.
Right. Yeah. It's in a sense, the final migration into an evergreen, field.
It's the final migration.
and I think what is unsexy about migrations is you spend a significant amount of money and you typically have less functionality. How do you sell that?
Sign me up for that.
So that's always a challenge. And so I think the promise of Office 365 and moving into the cloud and that SharePoint migration is that it is, in a sense, the final migration. And you're going to migrate in a way that you're going to bring things over that are sustainable within that environment, and making sure that you set the right policies of this is what we're going to support in Office 365, and this is what SharePoint is for us. And that is different. It's hard to say that, but it's different.
Yeah.
And so when we look at using our skill set and our passion around crafting solutions for people, the migration effort is part of that crafting. Let's make sure you have the right taxonomy. Let's make sure you're getting the most out of the platform, and we're bringing you over in a way that we're bringing over the high value pieces of what you have, and then we can get into that integration step of being. I'd love to be the one that we created that integration between Wunderlist and Outlook. So those add-ins, I think, is an area we're very excited about.
Yeah.
Our customers are not there yet, but we're excited about it, and we're prepared and doing things to help them when they're ready. So I think that's where we see a lot of that passion of what we like to do around crafting things is going to be in that integration area, and also solutions, web-based solutions that are embracing what Office 365 has to offer. I mean, what we did for the Braves, I think, was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
To have this portal that's running in Azure using Azure workflows, and then in the back end, anything that was back end office work, documents, some approval type workflows, that type of basic bread and butter of SharePoint, where we didn't have to do a lot of customization on that, just kind of configure that SharePoint piece. But our application that was running in Azure how to communicate with that. And it makes things complicated because there's a lot to it. Now it's not just SharePoint, but it's Azure, and Azure is huge. Across the board of all.
Seems to be very fast moving too. They're always
if you don't like it today, there's always tomorrow.
Yeah. Interesting. And it sounds right now with the migrations that we're helping out with, probably right now one of the projects is probably one of the most complex migrations done yet.
We talked to our partner with this, and the statement was there's no one else in the world has the IP that you have for automating our tool, except for Microsoft.
Except for that will not be named our biggest competitor, Microsoft Consulting Services. Oh well,
it's a partnership, and cooperation is probably the best way to put it. But it's good for customers. Gives customers options.
What's interesting, I think, with that project is because it's so complex, we're using, from my understanding, some of our app dev experience with like all the PowerShell scripts and really it's almost.
I think there's over 20,000 lines of PowerShell, which is pretty significant.
That's pretty significant. I don't know. That's great. So and I think probably for us, doing some of the more complex ones are probably for the folks who are here are more interesting as well. We'll do use the migration tool, point and migrate, but it seems like for us with our app dev background that we have a unique, it doesn't work this way, that's fine. We can work our way around it, which is
soften the edges, just like we've done with SharePoint. We can soften the edge of migration.
Because I have seen in the past where we have a migration and we hand it off maybe to another partner that we didn't want, and it got stuck. It never got done. And so with this, and I think there's especially when you're talking about larger organizations, you need to say, okay, well, the tool doesn't work out of the box, not a problem. Well, we've got PowerShell in our back pocket. So
and I think we can talk about this next week because this is its own topic in itself. But we're using Agile as our methodology for doing a migration, and people typically think about waterfall. When they think, it's already determined. You got this, and this, and you're done. There's not much to think about. But there's things to think about. And I'll talk about that more next week. But using Agile, we're rechecking that. Is that the right way to approach it? Is a Kanban process better? We really don't think waterfall is. I think if you think about waterfall, it means that everything up front. And every migration is different because it's its own beast of how did they use the platform? What pieces do they turn on? What things do they customize? What type of data do they store?
This will be good because right now we're in the heat of the largest that I know of Jive to SharePoint migration. And I've been saying, typically, me with projects is as soon as they start going, I sort of fall off. But this one, I've kept my hands a little bit, kept it close because it's been a really important project for us. But it'll be interesting to hear what you have to say. Just sort of, I've seen a lot at Scrum work up to this point because we've been doing some tool improvements, very app dev type things. But then we're getting to the point where we're pushing bits across the wire. We're pushing bits in the cloud, and
you can project that, but then you have reality of how fast does it really go? How many errors are we getting? What's coming out as not working on the other end? What do we need to do pre and post migration steps to optimize that? And it's an optimization challenge that at the end of the day, you're trying to put more engineering into it that's going to allow you to get there faster. And you definitely don't want to write some script for 10 hours to save 1 hour of time. But a lot of these migrations are, I write 10 hours of script, I can save 100 hours of time. And there's very concrete, return on investment.
Yeah.
You've got to go into that migration with enough funding to say, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get this done as quick as possible. And as we adapt to what is the reality of the migration, we're pushing those areas that are going to collapse that timeline. And so I think Agile is the way to do it if you want to get there faster.
Mm-hmm.
You can do waterfall, but you're going to have to do a lot of padding, and you're going to not be incented as much to say, how can we do this faster?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to just kind of follow the pattern and not pay attention to, this is a way we can improve it, because, that wasn't in the plan. Those scripts to improve it weren't in the plan. Waterfall is, just following it through, saying that we know how it's going to work out.
It just seems to me, it's just the feedback cycles. It's when you're doing waterfall, you don't have the feedback cycles that you have when you're compressing it and then having multiple. It's not there. So it
works well for painting a house. You got to get that crew in there, and you've got to get this step and this step and this step and this step done. And we know we have this much square footage. Let's get in there and let's be done. There's definitely things that kind of change there. We find some rotten wood here, and do we need to replace that?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm an agile. You
don't need to tell me you're an
agile bias. So I can make everything work with agile.
So that'll be great. So for folks who want to check back in next week to learn more about using Scrum and relating that to doing migrations, definitely join back for us. And you'll also be writing, it sounds like a complimenting blog post.
I hope to have the blog done by then.
Right. So we'll do that. We'll do that next week. A couple of updates with the podcast. I'm slowly pushing it out to different places. It's now on iTunes, and it is also now out on Stitcher. So if you go into Stitcher and just search for either 3Will or search for SharePoint if you can't spell 3Will, you'll see us showing up pretty high on that list. It's a big deal if you do listen through iTunes, if you can rate us. I'm looking forward to our first positive rating. But just rate us if you've got something good to say. Okay, thank you. But thank you, Tom, for having nothing to talk about this morning. We sure had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
And
hopefully that wasn't too much of a mishmash of stuff.
No, it worked out great. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Thanks everybody for listening. Drop by 3will.com. We'll have the transcript of this up there as well, and we'll have the links up to the various places where the podcast is. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Danny.
Bye-bye.
Bye.